And what changed policy was September the 11th. The 11th. This global movement with a global ideology was already in being. September the 11th was the culmination of what they wanted to do. But actually, you know, and this is probably where the policymakers such as myself were truly in error, is that even before September the 11th, this was happening in all sorts of different ways in different countries. I mean, in Algeria, for example, tens and tens of thousands of people lost their lives. This movement has grown. It is there. It will latch on to any cause that it possibly can and give it a dimension of terrorism and hatred. You can see this. You can see it in Kashmir, for example. You can see it in Chechnya. You can see it in Palestine. Now, what is its purpose? Its purpose is to promote its ideology based on a perversion of Islam and to use any methods at all, but particularly terrorism to do that, because they know that the value of terrorism to them is, as I was saying a moment or two ago, it's not simply the act of terror, it's the chain reaction that terror brings with it. Terrorism brings the reprisal brings the additional hatred breeds the additional terrorism, and so on.
It has been almost 10 years since the 9/11 attacks, and the United States is still a nation at war. Islamist terrorist groups with like-minded goals and ideologies remain one of the most significant and immediate threats to United States national security. Despite drastic steps taken by the US to improve national security, such as the 2005 Patriot Act, the threat of terrorism is still very real. Many private and government organizations are investing time, energy and money in researching and compiling information on terrorist organizations and activities in the fight against terrorism. One such organization is the Institute for the Study of Violent Groups at Sam Houston State University, funded through grants from the National Institute of Justice and the Bureau of Justice Assistance. The mission of ISVG is to provide research analysis on terrorism and extremism to support the state and local law enforcement counter-terrorism missions. This research center focuses on open-source data collection, utilizing a culturally diverse staff with a 14-language capability. The analysts pull out variables and information relevant to terrorist groups, terrorist individuals, and terrorist incidents, and capture them in a relational database that boasts being one of the most comprehensive databases on terrorism in the United States. This database tracks more than 1,100 extremist groups and 1,200 subgroups, as well as 1,200 organized crime groups throughout the world. Between January 2003 and June 2007, ISVG recorded more than 65,000 events related to terrorism and organized crime. In addition, ISVG has begun a historical analysis stretching back 20 years. According to ISVG research, more than 40% of the terrorist groups today were established between 1990 and 2000. In the 6 years following the 9/11 attacks, very few terrorist groups had been officially established. It is difficult to narrow down the reasons terrorists engage in terrorism, as their motivations are varied and compound. Terrorism is usually politically motivated, but often contains ideological or religious components. Terrorists seek to achieve power through actual, or the threat of, violence. Terrorist organizations do not adhere to the standard rules of war that are acceptable norms of behavior. As an example, the Geneva Convention requires that warring parties do not kill or take civilians as hostages. Terrorists have repeatedly taken and brutally killed hostages, kidnapped and brutalized military officers, and viciously attacked embassies and diplomatic buildings. Terrorist organizations tend to target economic resources, for example, oil and gas facilities. Terrorist groups obtain a number of benefits from attacking, degrading, and delaying the petroleum development of a region. Striking pipelines, tankers, refineries, and oil fields undermines the internal stability of governments and economically weakens foreign powers with vested interests in their region. This hampers the economic development of new democracies and the maintenance of the rule of law. It also sends a clear message to the population of a country and the rest of the world that their government cannot protect or provide a safe environment for them. Terrorist groups stand to gain financially if they can destabilize the security of a region through extortion, a major source of funding. Of the 80 reported terrorist groups, 47% claim to be Islamic. Marxist and nationalists are a much smaller percentage, as you can see from this chart. Dr. Stephen Young, professor at Sam Houston State University, points out that there are a wide variety of motives for terrorism. Revenge is the primary motivator for the Black Widows in Chechnya, and religious fervor as a motivation for the Islamic extremists. Saeed Qutb, a leading intellectual of the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood and radical Islamic philosopher, who returned from attending college in Colorado in the late 50s, early 60s, despised the US because of its perceived materialism. The assassination of Yitzhak Rabin in November 1995 by Yigal Amir was motivated by a desire to end the peace process between the Palestinians and Israelis that was making some progress because of the unique rapport between Yasser Arafat and Rabin at the time. And Anwar Sadat's assassination in 1981 for signing a peace treaty with Israel. He was accused of not being Muslim enough. Bruce Hoffman, in his book Inside Terrorism, discusses the tendency of terrorist groups to have far-reaching psychological repercussions beyond the immediate victim or target. His opinion is that terrorists seek to instill far-reaching fear and intimidation throughout a society in an effort to publicize themselves as well as their grievances and causes. Terrorism has become a business, and terrorist organizations have taken advantage of the growth of the Internet, allowing them to recruit globally, provide information and disinformation, and spread their messages of hate.
The president last night, in his State of the Union speech, ignored national security.
Now, throughout our history, no issue has united this country more than our security.
He said the least about national security than any American president I can recall.
We've made substantial investments in our homeland security and disrupted plots that threaten to take American lives.
At a time in which we are at war with Islamic terrorists. And notice, once again, he never used that word.
Since the day I took office, we've renewed our focus on the terrorists who threaten our nation.
Didn't mention the word Islamic terrorism last night.
We will bring 44 nations together here in Washington, D.C. behind a clear goal, securing all vulnerable nuclear materials around the world in 4 years so that they never fall into the hands of terrorists.
Didn't talk about the Christmas almost bomber.
We are filling unacceptable gaps revealed by the failed Christmas attack with better airline security and swifter action on our intelligence.
This is like Franklin Roosevelt during the Second World War, not mentioning Nazis and not mentioning war.
And in the last year, hundreds of al-Qaeda's fighters and affiliates, including many senior leaders, have been captured or killed, far more than in 2008.
This would be like Franklin Roosevelt giving a State of the Union speech during the Second World War, not mentioning Nazism and not mentioning the war.
3, action.
Hey, you unbelieving kuffar bastards. I'm going to turn your bean.
No.
What?
What's with the gun?
Proper replica, man.
It's too small, man.
Not too small, brother.
Big hands.
The way to stop the feds tracking you is very simple. You eat your SIM card.
Can I cook, man?
You're total idiot, Soph. I can't even get them to stir the tea without smashing a window. My plan is, Dave, to put a bomb on a crow. We're way beyond crows now, Faisal. Answered the call, bro. Training camp, Pakistan. What? What? That's a drone. We've got to take it out.
It must have been God's plan.
Come on, Soph. How could that be God's plan?
Well, it can't be God's plan to leave the lads with Barry, can it?
Why do we need a training camp anyway? We're primed. We don't need some tramp up a mountain telling us to set a fuse.
What we're going to do is got a blast in history. Echo through the ages.
Blow something up.
What are we going to blow up, Raj?
Internet.
What? Costume. We can disguise the gear in there, and it's perfect.
Waiting for the fun run, lads?
For charity.
You're going to die in that gear, lads.
It's all for a good cause, though.
Yeah.
It's not gonna go off!
You're confused, bro.
I'm not confused, brother. I just took a picture of my face. It's definitely not my confused face.
What are you doing? It's in case for taking pictures. What?
Barry says you come out blurry.
Take the books off your head.
I'm not showing an image.
Hey, brother,